We saw this the other day from Pete Nakos. And Garrett, we're going to start with the toughest. All right. The toughest non-conference schedules. Baylor is I don't know if these are, if you put these in order, there's no numbers by them, or if it's just the 10 and you kind of make up your mind on your own. Baylor, Miami, TCU, Duke, Clemson, Syracuse, Kent State, who is on, like, they play FSU. I think they play Bama. I think their 4 non-con games or whatever they play are all pretty tough. Ohio, Tulane, Florida, and Florida State are the toughest non-conference schedules. Baylor, of course, has Auburn and SMU on their schedule. Miami, they have Notre Dame. They have
Florida, USF.
Yeah, Florida, yeah. Florida and USF, who I think will be very tough for anybody. So, yeah, that's a tough one. TCU has North Carolina on the schedule right off the bat. So, yeah, these are Clemson and LSU play each other right off the bat. Garrett, I noticed you didn't put Brian Kelly's
I
trash
forgot
talk.
about that one.
You forgot? You forgot?
Forgot about that one.
It's convenient that you forgot about that.
Yeah, we'll leave that alone.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, Florida obviously has FSU. They have Miami. So these are the toughest one. Craig, any thoughts on any of these?
I mean, it's interesting to see Baylor at the top, but not surprising because of the fact that they do get Auburn right out of the gates and then SMU. I don't know that would make them the toughest, though. Yeah. I feel like you could argue that some others might be tougher. I mean, but it's 2 name brands, and one of those was a playoff team. So I definitely think it's one of the toughest. Miami, you mentioned the teams, or I mentioned the teams they played, definitely have compared to some a very tough schedule. And I don't know everybody's memorized everybody's schedules. So I know we've gone over a lot of these and come across a lot of these teams, but I don't remember everyone to be able to just riff on the order or what have you here. But, yeah, I mean, a lot of these we've talked about. I remember Syracuse and Clemson, a lot of ACC on here, couple Big 12, and the one SEC team, for as much as we hear about, the schedules, the non-conference is not what we hear about. And there are cases like Oklahoma and Texas where they're playing, this big banger of a game. But Florida, in a year where they really need to win games, not nice timing, I should say, for Billy Napier, and interesting to see just only them on this list from that league. But I know a lot of the talk is not about the non-con, it's about the league schedule. So therefore you don't have to, or shouldn't have to, or maybe won't play tough non-cons in the future, is because the league. And if Curt Cignetti has his way up in the Big Ten, they'll never play anybody that even has a pulse come game day.
Yeah.
The new Art Briles, as far as scheduling goes, to be clear. So, yeah, I don't like that Cignetti's kind of like lapping up the fact of, we're doing the SEC thing now. We're playing, nobody in the non-con. I know he's just riling up people. He's just trolling people, and that's kind of his MO. But I hate that he's like leaning into, we're not going to play anybody and acting as though he's the head coach at Ohio State. I hope that non-cons don't just get thrown to the wayside, but there's a lot of questions about those, like every other element of this entire sport. There are also questions about non-con moving forward. So good to see teams scheduling tough teams. I think it'll make some of these teams better for having been tested. And Baylor, Miami, TCU, all these teams, kudos to them for scheduling tough teams. Although you can't predict that out, but you schedule names, more often than not, you're going to probably run into some pretty good teams.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, Florida, I mean, they have one, like LIU is their first game, but they have USF and Miami and FSU on their schedule. Miami of Notre Dame, USF and Florida among teams on there.
This can't be in order because I think those are tougher on paper than.
I strangely enough, Baylor and TCU are both on this list, and they both have SMU, but SMU also has them. So that's kind of where I guess maybe Pete doesn't think of Baylor and TCU in the same stratosphere as SMU right now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but
I think that's a total. I will give him the benefit of the doubt and think that maybe he just had another omission like on the other list.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't make much sense that you wouldn't then have or who was it? SMU.
Yeah, SMU.
You think, you're playing Baylor and TCU, then that should be on the list. Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's that.
But then again, I don't know how that's viewed up there in Nashville. That might be like not as big of a deal, like you said, although it should be. And so maybe that's just an oversight.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Clemson's on the list because they have LSU and South Carolina. Now, they do sneak in Troy and Furman. Furman plays the week before South Carolina. But still, if you open your season with an SEC team that's going to be really good and close it really good, I'll allow them for the SEC mimicry on the Furman Paladins there in the week before. Now, let's go to –
Hold on. I do think that in the case of Napier and Aranda, that these non-cons could have them in boiling hot water amongst their fan bases early on, only to maybe save the day like Baylor last year. Really bad start to the season. And then by the end of it, they had put lipstick on that early season slate that it looked like it was going to be a pig of a season. But by the end of it, they had turned it into something not too bad. And had they beaten LSU in that bowl game, I think it would have been an incredible year, an incredible turnaround. It was a very good one and enough to give you hope about this year. But, I can see a scenario like last year where you're in that first month and you're under 500 for a second and people are like, oh, my God. And then it's like, well, you just played a really tough non-con and you dig yourself out of that hole. But if you don't do that and you actually start off well, then I think you've got the type of schedule and some others do on here where that could propel you into the top 25 pretty quickly if you handle your business.
Yeah. Just a word on Kent State really quick. So their three, I said Alabama, I was wrong. It was Oklahoma. They play at Tech, at FSU, and at OU.
I mean, that's number one.
Yeah,
it has to be.
Yeah. And they also had to fire their coach in the spring, if you remember, because there was a bit of a financial scandal there. So they're already going in maybe behind a lot of people and have to deal with going to Lubbock, Tallahassee, and Norman. Three places not easy to play in. Syracuse, by the way, made the list. They play Tennessee early, and then late they've got to have somebody, and Notre Dame later in the year. So they're on the ACC Notre Dame rotation there. So.
Kent State, who's won one football game in the last 2 years, has the hardest non-con schedule in the entire country. So this is definitely not ranked in order.
But congratulations on your financial windfall.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
So gonna make up for all the money the coach scammed out of you, I guess. All right, let's go to the other list, Garrett. The easiest. Now, the one that's not on here, remarkably, is Indiana. Who's made a big stink about, they're not even ashamed of it.
They're like bragging about it.
Hey, look, we're going to roll right through this. Now, Tech is on this list, and Tech usually, they've played Oregon the last couple of years. They usually have someone, but this is one of the reasons I think people think that Tech can finally maybe not stumble along the way out of the gate, because they can roll through the non-con early and build that confidence as they get into what is going to be a tough conference schedule in the Big 12.
Yeah, that's what I've cited as well, is they don't have the toughest road. And when you've poured in all this money and you've got a favorable schedule, that's even more reason to believe that this year could be the year to break through and handle your business, because Oregon State's a little bit of a question mark, but I don't think it's much of a question mark. And you don't go to play them way out northwest. You get them at home. So you don't leave your brand new sparkling reorganized, reconstructed, rebuilt stadium at all at the beginning of the year. And you should just pile up wins. And I don't know if they'll start top 25. I think they might start top 25 based on just the amount of hype. And let's face it, voters know a certain amount, and then they kind of default to what they've kind of heard maybe, overall. And so who have you heard more about this offseason? So I think they'll get a lot of probably preseason votes. And even if they don't, then they should be undoubtedly off to a really nice start with the schedule that they have. And again, Oregon State, respect to them, but I just don't know what they're like after 2 years of basically being in the dishwasher, of just being, thrown around and trying to just get a breath of air, not really sure what the future holds. So maybe the Beavers challenge them, but Arkansas Pine Bluff, absolutely not. Kent State, we just talked about them. They've won 1 game in 2 years. Toughest schedule in the country. That's a blowout. And then Oregon State. So yeah, they're definitely going to be 2-0 and good chance they're 3-0. And yeah, they're not going to probably have to break much of a sweat.
Okay, Auburn's on this list, but maybe that doesn't account. I don't know if that's fair to Auburn, seeing as Baylor is their first game. And again, I don't want to be biased. I mean, yes, Ball State, South Alabama, and Mercer are also on their list. So they don't have a second one to balance that out. We're going to do Ole Miss's schedule later today. And that will be that we'll get into that one. But yeah, that's another one I know. I would give Auburn the benefit of the doubt because at least of all these teams that are on this list, they have, and even Georgia has Georgia Tech. So you may want to like move them aside because they at least have one and the rest of them have none and put Indiana in one of those spots.
Well, I got Pete's article pulled up. I should have had it up earlier, but yeah, I mean, he gives credit to Baylor being a test, but then Ball State, South Alabama, and Mercer.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, so yeah, like they play a tough road game, but you know, that's where we get off track and we start talking about scheduling discussion. It's like, yeah, the league you play in is really tough, even though that varies based on the fact that you don't play everybody, but everybody claims and acts like they play everybody. Everybody acts like they play Georgia, Texas, LSU, so on and so forth. And some of them do, some of them don't. Some of them play some combination. But then you have, I mean, that's 3 easy wins right there. That gets you halfway to bowl eligibility. And that's where the complaints and the discussion happens around the SEC scheduling. But yeah, I mean, going to Baylor is a challenge. But I guess for Pete, not enough of one to take away from the 3 games that are obviously should be layups for Hugh Freeze and company.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I've pulled up as many as I can here. Wake Forest, Kennesaw State, Western Carolina, Oregon State, and Delaware. Georgia's. Look, Georgia didn't have a tough schedule last year, but Marshall, Austin P, Charlotte, and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech will be their toughest one, and that obviously comes at the end of the season. So,
I mean, I'll give credit to, Auburn's playing a Baylor for what I just said. It's just that you've got 3 games typically on these schedules and everybody else has maybe 2. And some of them have 3. But for bowl purposes, which then turns into you putting out your big graphic at the end of the year, where then you start putting out your propaganda of 12 teams made bowl games. And it's like, if you didn't have that 3rd layup, but it's not like all 4 are layups because Auburn does play Baylor, Georgia does play Georgia Tech, Tennessee plays Syracuse. So you do have to give them credit for games like that. Now, on Ole Miss, I'm trying to think, Georgia State, Washington State. I mean, you couldn't have really predicted that. Tulane. So, I'll give them some credit for that, and the Citadel. So that's not terrible. So, yeah, I don't see a totally egregious one just yet, but we haven't been through every single team.
Yeah, we're doing Ole Miss's schedule later on in the day, but Tennessee has Syracuse. Their others are East Tennessee and UAB and New Mexico State. Vanderbilt.
Penn State should be at the top of the list.
Yeah.
Penn State should be at the top of the list. I mean, they've got Nevada, FIU, and Villanova. So I don't think that's something you look at as all that challenging. And I think Villanova is still probably for some people one of those schools. If you don't know anybody, you're like, they have a football team. Like, and I know that they clearly do, and most people do. But I just always automatically think of basketball with them. But that's got to be one of the easier non-cons in the entire country. I would think would be Penn State. So again, definitely not in order, but a nice glimpse into kind of where heads are at with this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, Penn State. The other thing you factor in, and I got choked up there, I got a hiccup, is one of the difficult factors of a lot of people's non-cons is that you sign this home and home, and you've got like Texas not only has to play Ohio State, they've got to go to Columbus to do it, right? If you're playing the same team every year, like Georgia and Georgia Tech, Georgia has to go to Georgia Tech and play in their stadium, although, that game's a little bit more divided, but it's still not their home field. And so you have all that. But if you're Penn State and you have Nevada, FIU, and Villanova just showing up at your place, there's a degree of difficulty that's not there for you that is for other teams.
Yeah, and the one that he's missing on here is Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
I think he acknowledged that and said that it's actually within the story if you go and look. But Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, again.
Well,
Kent State is what I'm
Kennesaw State is the newest FBS program.
But, Indiana, Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State. Garbage non-conference schedule. And I would think if you're ranking these, this probably has to be number one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I saw a lot of Indiana fans get defensive in the comments, and it's like, what are you defending, though? Like, what is your argument that it's not an easy non-conference schedule? But they won a little bit, and now I think I've seen, just like every fan base does, they turn into the
this has been this way for 20 years.
Yeah, you're scared of Signet, they got some catchphrase of like, you fear the Siggy or something like that.
I saw it here.
Oh yeah,
I saw it here. That for the year they got snubbed from the playoff, and they did get snubbed from the playoff. I saw a lot of signs like, we want Bama, we want FSU, we want Oregon, and I'm like, you guys are really good, but I'm not sure that you're there yet. Now that team the next year that had some injuries and wouldn't have, that team could have hung.
I think that's fans doing that. Fans don't make the schedules.
Yeah, I know, but they're like saying all this like we want like in the playoff, and to your point about like all of a sudden you're kind of new money when it comes to fans, and you're like, all right, this is your first year doing this. I know you want to see them because you may not get another chance again, but yeah, you pump the brakes.
It's just that I think acting like you're already in the club because you've had like a year of success, and now you're acting as though you've had 10 years of success is what I'm getting at. And so you're seeing that, and you see that from Epic. It's not anything unique. It happens. Just insert a team over the years. This is just how it always goes. When you start to win, you start to get that confidence, and inevitably some part of the fan base gets cocky, and then next thing you know, you're claiming that people only talk about you negatively because they want engagement, and that's just delusion or trolling. I don't know which one, because there's no excusing the argument that Indiana has one of, if not the easiest non-conference schedule in the country. It's on paper. We'll see, but I do think this is something that maybe aids them initially, like it clearly did last year to some degree. Now, they still had to go handle their business in the Big Ten. That's ultimately what matters. And if they do that consistently, that'll be great. And if the playoff expands, and everybody's going to start scheduling like them, which is a concern. But I do think that if things say sort of status quo, which is probably not going to happen, but you would get to a point where if Indiana's knocking that door again this year, then that non-con has to come into consideration. And you have to go, they're rigging the system, by not challenging themselves, or that's going to have to be held against them to some point, potentially if you're going up against a team for the same spot that's got at least somebody with a pulse on the schedule type of a argument. So I remember how that was with Baylor. They don't deserve it. They didn't play anybody, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually they started scheduling better teams. It reminds me almost deja vu of Indiana with Signetti and what they're trying to do. And it makes sense. Like it helped them out and in making the playoff last year, and it could help them again this year. So we'll see.
Now, their schedule is a little bit different because they do like the Big Ten schedules are on like the every other year thing. So last year where they avoided Oregon and they avoided Penn State, they play them this year. The only big dog they had last year was Ohio State. So,
but Indiana's got nobody like for the foreseeable future. That's the thing about them is and when I get to like eventually that's going unless everybody just says, all right, we're doing the same pattern because it's worked for them. Like at some point that's going to have to be held against you that you are just intentionally not trying to do anything but go 3-0 in the non-conference, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, no, they are. I mean, like I'm looking at
they have no Power 5 or Power 4 teams in the next 5 years.
Look, they've got long-term deals with Kennesaw State and Indiana State.
I bet they do.
Long-term, like that's.
I bet they do.
That's going to be a regular check for them to cash, for them to come in. Austin P, Eastern Michigan, in 28. like just looking down.
Here's everybody on their schedule for the next 5 years. Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State, Colorado State, Western Kentucky, Kennesaw State, Indiana State, UMass, Austin Peay, Eastern Michigan, Ball State, Eastern Illinois, and Western Kentucky. That's their next 5 years of non-conference games. Now, 2030, Notre Dame's on there. Okay, that's great, but I don't know if the sport even exists in 2030 at this point. So, but yeah, they have a couple spots like 26. They need a game. 28. They need a game. So we'll see. Maybe they put somebody that's in a bigger conference in there and give themselves a challenge. But for now, they are definitely going the route of let's stack wins and worry about the rest of it later.
Yeah, absolutely.